The day begins in a kitchen corner, close to the stove. The table sits against the wall. One leg is shorter, so a folded strip of cloth stays tucked beneath it. Knees settle onto the mat. They shift. They settle again. A pot lid rests near the edge, turned so it won't tip. A bowl is placed down. It slides a little. A hand pulls it back. Steam lifts, then thins. Fingers hover, then wrap around the bowl. They loosen. They grip again. The warmth moves into the palms and stays there longer than expected. The floor cools faster than the bowl. Toes press down through the mat. This is where most meals begin. Not with variety, not with choice, with position. The body leans forward because the table is low. The shoulders angle to avoid the stove. A sleeve brushes the pot handle and pulls away. Nothing is adjusted fully, and things remain slightly off. That's how the space keeps its shape. Rice arrives first. The bowl pauses near the mouth. It lowers. It pauses again. The chopsticks rest across the rim, then are picked up. A few grains fall back into the bowl. They stay there. No one reaches for them. Eating doesn't start cleanly. It starts like this. The soup comes next. Thin, warm, a ladle dips once. Then again. Less soup the second time. The ladle taps the pot's edge. It's set down. It's picked up to scrape the last bit. The bowl is steadied with the thumb. The rim is wiped. The thumb wipes again, out of habit. The space stays small. The wall keeps the table from shifting. The stove keeps the body leaning forward. The floor keeps the legs folded. Nothing here invites movement. Meals fit because they have to. When the bowl is lifted, the elbow angles out to miss the shelf. When it's set down, it lands in the same place as before. Food here isn't arranged. It's placed. Rice fills the center of the bowl without shaping. Soup waits without garnish. There may be something else later. There may not. The hands don't ask. They keep moving. Chopsticks lift. They pause. They lower. The motion repeats until the bowl lightens. This way of eating depends on steadiness, not ideas. The body learns the corner. The corner teaches the body. Knees stay folded longer than planned. The back straightens, then leans again. The mat creases under weight and holds it. The table doesn't move. The bowl does. Outside, light changes. Inside, it doesn't matter much. The pot stays warm. The floor doesn't. A foot shifts. It tucks closer. The posture adjusts because it has to. No one sits back, and there isn't room. The bowl empties. Before that becomes a problem. Meals like this repeat. Not exactly. Close enough. The cloth under the table leg stays. The pot lid stays turned the same way. The same corner takes the same weight. The body finds the same balance again. Hands slow when the soup thins. Chopsticks rest across the bowl. They're lifted once more to check. When the meal ends, it doesn't announce itself. The bowl is set down and left there. Steam fades. Fingers stay warm a little longer. Knees remain folded. The floor keeps its cool. Nothing moves yet. The bowl is set down, but the corner stays the same. Nothing is rearranged. The mat keeps its crease. The table keeps its lean. What changes next isn't the place, only what keeps returning to it. The low table remains against the wall, close to the stove. Knees stay folded on the mat. They shift once, then settle. A hand reaches for the rice bowl and stops halfway. It waits. The bowl is pulled closer instead. Its base scrapes the wood. The scrape happens again when it's nudged into place. Rice fills the bowl without shape. The surface is uneven. Chopsticks rest across the rim. They're lifted. They're set back down. The tips tap once, by accident. A few grains cling and fall back. The bowl tilts toward the body because the table is low. The wrist adjusts to keep the rice from sliding. Eating starts in small motions. The chopsticks close. They pause. They open again. A bite lifts, stops, then reaches the mouth. The bowl lowers before the next bite. It's set down. It's pulled closer. The same spot on the mat takes the weight of the knees again. The soup pot sits near the stove, close enough to keep warm. The lid is turned so steam slips out. A ladle dips. It comes up half full. It dips again. The second scoop is smaller. The ladle taps the rim and rests there. A hand steadies the bowl. The thumb wipes the edge. It wipes again, without looking. Miso thins the broth. It doesn't coat. The bowl is lifted with both hands this time. It pauses near the mouth. A sip is taken. Another waits. The bowl lowers before it's empty. Steam fades while it sits. Fingers stay wrapped around it longer than needed. The warmth holds. The space keeps the posture narrow. Our shoulders angle to avoid the stove. Elbows stay close because the wall is near. When the bowl moves, the body leans with it. When it's set down, the back straightens, then leans again. The mat presses into the knees. The pressure doesn't change. Nothing else is required for the meal to continue. Rice stays central. Soup returns when it cools. The chopsticks repeat the same motion. Lift, pause, lower. The motion doesn't speed up. It doesn't slow much either. The bowl lightens. It's noticed only when the sound changes as the chopsticks touch the bottom. A grain sticks to the side of the bowl. It's pushed back with the chopstick tip. Another is left where it is. The bowl is tipped to gather what remains. The wrist tightens. The bowl settles back flat. The table doesn't move. The cloth under its leg stays folded, and the soup is checked again. The ladle lifts once more. It scrapes the pot's bottom. The scrape is soft. The bowl fills just enough. The ladle rests. It's picked up to catch what clings to the edge. The pot lid shifts and is turned back the same way as before. By the end, the corner looks the same. The mat holds its crease. The table leans as it did. The bowls sit where they were last placed. Hands rest for a moment. Knees remain folded. The floor cools under the mat. The body stays where it is. The corner doesn't change. The table stays against the wall. The mat keeps its crease. Knees fold back into the same place. One knee presses harder than the other. It's adjusted, then left alone. The bowl is pulled close again, even though it hasn't moved. Eating doesn't hurry here. The chopsticks lift a bite and stop. They wait. The hand lowers them without eating. The bite is lifted again. This time, it reaches the mouth. The bowl follows, then drops back to the table. The motion repeats unevenly, never quite the same. Between bites, the hands pause. One thumb rests on the rim. It rubs a small spot where the glaze is thinner. The thumb moves away. It comes back to the same place. The habit doesn't change the bowl. It keeps the hand busy. Soup cools faster when it sits. The bowl is lifted again before it's needed. It's held near the chest. The steam has thinned. A sip is taken anyway. The bowl lowers halfway, then lifts again. The second sip is smaller. The bowl stays in the hands longer than planned. The posture stays forward. The back straightens once, then leans again, because the table is low. Shoulders angle to avoid the stove. An elbow brushes the wall and pulls in closer. The space doesn't allow stretching. Eating fits inside these limits. Fullness arrives quietly, not all at once. A bite lifts and is set back down. Another follows. The bowl is tilted to gather what remains. It's tipped too far and corrected. A few grains slide and stop near the edge. They're eaten last. No one eats until empty by force. The body slows before that. The chopsticks rest across the bowl longer this time. They're picked up again to check, and the sound changes when they touch the bottom. That sound matters more than the sight. The soup is finished in small sips. The bowl is tipped. It's set down. It's lifted once more to catch what's left. The ladle isn't used again. The pot stays where it is. The lid remains turned. When the meal reaches its end, nothing signals it. The bowl is placed slightly farther away. Hands rest on the thighs. Knees stay folded. The mat presses back. The floor stays cool beneath it. The body doesn't rise yet. It stays long enough to feel the warmth fade. The bowls are moved aside, not far. The corner keeps its shape. Light shifts along the wall, then pulls back again. What returns to the table now changes with the days outside it. The same corner holds the meal. The table stays against the wall. The mat keeps its crease where knees fold. One knee presses down, then eases. A sleeve is rolled once, then rolled again a little higher. The stove gives off less heat now. The body leans forward anyway, out of habit. Spring brings small changes to the bowl before they're noticed elsewhere. A plate appears beside the rice. It's set down, lifted, then set closer. A few green leaves rest there, barely dressed. The chopsticks hover over them, then move back to the rice first. The greens wait. They aren't urgent. The rice bowl is lighter than before. It's pulled in. It's tipped slightly. The wrist tightens to keep grains from sliding. A bite lifts and pauses. It lowers again. The greens are taken next, one piece at a time. They're chewed longer. The mouth adjusts to the bitterness. The bowl follows the movement without thought. The soup changes with the weather. The pot is set a little farther from the flame. The lid stays off longer. A ladle dips once. It's lifted and held while steam thins. The ladle dips again, more out of routine than need. The bowl fills less than before. It's lifted with one hand this time. As days warm, the body shifts more often. Knees unfold briefly, then fold back. The mat wrinkles under weight and is smoothed with the palm. A foot slides back, then forward again to find the cooler spot. The floor feels different now. It holds the chill longer than the bowl does, as summer brings foods that ask for less heat. A small dish of tofu is placed near the edge of the table. It's nudged inward so it won't tip. The dish sweats in the warm air. Fingers touch the rim, pull back, then steady it. The tofu is eaten slowly, in small pieces. The bowl of rice stays close. Noodles appear on some days. They're lifted high once, then lowered back into the bowl. The motion repeats. A drop falls to the mat and darkens it. The mat is brushed with the back of the hand. The spot stays. Eating continues around it. Fish comes lightly cooked. It's set down on a small plate, then turned so the skin faces away. The chopsticks test a piece, then pull back. The piece is taken on the second try. The plate is shifted to make room for the rice bowl again. Space matters more when the weather is warm. The corner doesn't open up, and the wall still limits the elbows. The stove still sets the posture, but the body moves more within those limits. The bowl is lifted and set down more often. Sips are taken sooner. The ladle rests longer between uses. By the end of the meal, the table looks almost the same. Different dishes, same positions. The mat holds the same crease. Knees remain folded, though they shift more often. Hands rest briefly, then return to move a bowl aside. The body stays a moment longer before standing. The corner holds steady as the air cools. The table stays against the wall. Knees fold onto the mat and settle into the same crease. A hand rests briefly on the wood, then pulls back when it feels colder than before. The stove gives off more heat now. The body leans toward it without deciding to. Autumn foods arrive heavier in the bowl. A pot is set down closer to the flame. It's turned once, then turned back. Steam gathers more quickly. A lid is lifted and held while the contents settle. It's set down again, not quite straight. No one fixes it. Rice fills the bowl more fully than in summer. The bowl is lifted, then lowered before eating starts. Chopsticks tap the rim once. They're adjusted. A bite lifts and pauses longer than before. The mouth closes around it more slowly. The bowl lowers and stays down between bites. Vegetables change shape with the season. Slices of squash sit soft against the bowl. Mushrooms slide in the broth and are caught with the chopsticks. then dropped back once. They're taken on the second try. The bite is chewed longer. The jaw works steadily. The shoulders stay forward. The soup thickens slightly. The ladle dips once. It scrapes the pot's side. It dips again to gather what clings. The bowl fills a little more than before. It's lifted with both hands. The warmth spreads into the palms and stays. The bowl is set down only when it becomes too warm to hold. Autumn brings a different rhythm to the body. Knees shift less often. Feet stay tucked under longer. The mat holds its shape. The floor presses back more firmly through it. The posture doesn't need adjusting as often. The space feels smaller when the body moves less. A fish appears with firmer flesh. A small plate is set near the rice. It's nudged inward so it won't slide. The chopsticks test the surface, then pull away. A piece breaks free on the second touch. The plate is turned so the skin faces the wall. The bowl of rice moves closer again. Pickles sharpen the edge of the meal. A small dish is placed and then shifted twice to keep it from the heat. Fingers touch one piece and hesitate. It's taken last. The mouth tightens briefly, then relaxes. The bowl follows immediately after. Between bites, hands rest longer. Chopsticks lie across the bowl. They're lifted to check what remains, then set back down. The sound at the bottom of the bowl comes sooner now. That sound ends the rice more than the eye does. When the meal slows, the corner still looks the same. The pot stays near the flame, and the lid remains slightly off. The mat keeps its crease. Knees stay folded. Hands move a bowl aside and leave it there. The body remains forward, holding the warmth a little longer before letting it go. The corner tightens in winter. The table stays against the wall, but the space around it feels smaller. Knees fold onto the mat and press deeper. The mat no longer gives much. A foot shifts, then tucks closer under the body. The stove is fed again. The body leans toward it without pausing to check the distance. stored foods come out slowly. A jar is set down, then turned so the lid loosens. It's twisted once, then again. The sound is dull. The lid comes free and is set upside down near the wall. A hand wipes the rim before the jar is moved closer to the table. Rice is measured more carefully now. The scoop pauses above the pot. It's lowered, then lifted back out. A little is shaken off. The scoop returns. The bowl fills less than it did in autumn. The bowl is lifted to check, then set down again without eating, and the soup grows stronger. The pot sits close to the flame. The lid stays on longer. Steam escapes only when it's lifted. A ladle dips and scrapes the bottom. It dips again to catch what clings. The bowl fills slowly. It's lifted with both hands and held longer than before. Fingers tighten around the heat. Pickled vegetables come out one at a time. A piece is lifted and held above the bowl. It's set back down. Another is taken instead. The bite is smaller. The mouth tightens briefly, then releases. The rice follows immediately. The sequence repeats. The floor pulls warmth away faster now. Knees press harder into the mat. They shift once, then settle deeper. A heel lifts and lowers to find a less cold spot. The posture stays folded because straightening would lose heat. The space decides this. Fermented foods appear without comment. A miso is stirred in at the end. The spoon moves in small circles. It pauses. It stirs again, more slowly. The pot is pulled off the flame and set down. It's nudged closer to the wall so it won't be bumped. Between bites, hands don't rest far from the bowl. Chopsticks are set down and picked up again without fully letting go. The bowl is tipped to gather what remains. It's corrected before spilling. A grain sticks to the side and is pressed back with the tip of the chopstick. Winter meals take longer without adding more food. The motions stretch out. Sips come closer together. The bowl is lifted and set down more often. The sound at the bottom arrives later, but it's listened for all the same. When the meal slows, nothing is cleared yet. The pot stays near the flame. The jar lid stays upside down. The mat holds the deeper crease, and knees remain folded. Hands rest on the thighs, then return to steady the bowl once more. The body stays close to the heat, keeping it as long as it can. The pot is moved back, not far. The corner holds. What comes next smells different before it's seen. Something from the water reaches the table and settles into the same space. The table stays against the wall. Knees fold into the mat's deeper crease. A small plate is set down and nudged inward so it won't slide. It's nudged again. The plate stops close to the rice bowl, close enough to share heat from the stove. Fish arrives plain. The skin faces up at first, then is turned toward the wall. Chopsticks touch the surface and pull back. They test again. A piece breaks free on the second try. It's held above the bowl, then lowered back to the plate. The hand waits before lifting it again. Seaweed follows without ceremony. A strip is lifted, folded once, then folded again because it's too long. It's dipped briefly into the soup, and the strip darkens and softens. It's lifted out and held while the excess drips back. The bowl is steadied with the other hand. The fish is eaten in small pieces. Each piece is checked with the chopsticks before lifting. A bone is found and set aside on the plate's edge. The plate is turned slightly to keep it separate. The rice bowl moves closer to follow the bite. The posture tightens around the task. Shoulders angle inward. Elbows stay close to avoid the wall. The back leans forward because the table is low. When the bowl is lifted, the wrist turns to keep the soup from spilling. When it's set down, it lands in the same spot as before. Seaweed returns to the soup once more. It's dipped shorter this time. The ladle isn't used. The bowl is tilted instead. A sip follows immediately. The warmth spreads, then settles. Fingers loosen their grip and tighten again. Fish oils cling to the chopsticks. They're wiped against the bowl's rim. The motion repeats. The rim is wiped again with the thumb. The thumb pauses on a thin spot in the glaze and moves away. The habit doesn't stop. The floor pulls at the knees as the meal continues. Knees press down, then shift a little to relieve it. The mat wrinkles and is smoothed with the palm. A foot slides back to find a warmer patch. The body stays folded to keep heat close. The plate lightens. Bones remain. They're gathered together with the chopstick tips and pushed farther from the rice. The plate is nudged outward now that it's less needed. The bowl takes its place again. When the fish is gone, the corner looks unchanged. The wall still limits the elbows. The stove still draws the body forward, and hands rest briefly, then lift the bowl once more to check the soup. Knees stay folded. The mat holds. The pot stays near the stove, close enough to keep its warmth. Knees remain folded on the mat. One knee presses harder, then eases. A hand reaches for the pot handle and stops. It waits. The handle is touched again, this time briefly, just to check the heat. The broth begins simply. Water is poured in, not to the mark, but close. It's adjusted with a small splash. Dried fish flakes are added and sink, then rise. A strip of kelp is laid flat and pushed under with the ladle. The ladle pauses. It moves once more to keep the kelp from curling. The pot isn't left alone. The lid is set on, then tilted. Steam slips out along one edge. The lid is turned and tilted again to find the same gap as before. The sound inside changes slightly. That sound is listened to, then ignored. When the broth is ready, the pot is pulled off the flame and set down closer to the wall. It's nudged twice so it won't be bumped. The ladle dips once and lifts. It dips again to clear what clings. The bowl is steadied with the other hand. The thumb rests on the rim and stays there. The broth tastes light. A sip is taken and held before swallowing. The bowl lowers, then lifts again for a second sip. The second is smaller. The bowl is set down and left there while the warmth spreads. Fingers loosen, then tighten again around the edge. Dashi doesn't fill the mouth. It settles into it. The soup is returned to between bites of rice. The bowl moves closer. The chopsticks lift, pause and lower. The broth follows without being announced. The sequence repeats until it feels even. Seaweed left from earlier is dipped once more. It darkens further and softens as it's lifted out and folded with the chopsticks. A drop falls back into the bowl. The bowl is tipped slightly to keep it from spilling. The wrist corrects and holds. The posture stays narrow. Shoulders angle inward. Elbows stay close to the wall. The back leans forward because the table is low. When the bowl is lifted, the body leans with it. When it's set down, the body stays forward anyway. Between sips, the ladle rests across the pot. It's lifted once to stir, then set back the same way. The pot lid is returned loosely, then shifted to keep the same opening. The motion is repeated without checking. As the broth thins in the bowl, the sips come closer together. The sound at the bottom arrives softly. The bowl is tipped to gather what remains. It's set down and left there. Knees remain folded. Hands rest briefly and then return to steady the bowl once more before moving it aside. The pot is set back into its place. The corner doesn't widen. Something pale replaces what came from the water, and the hands adjust without looking. The same corner holds the table. Knees fold into the mat's crease. A small wooden board is set down and shifted twice to keep it steady. A block of tofu rests on it, still damp. Fingers touch the surface and pull back. They touch it again, slower, to feel how firm it is. The knife is lifted and set down once before cutting. It's lifted again. The blade presses in and stops. It's pulled back and pressed again, this time all the way through. The block separates with a soft give. Water beads along the cut and runs onto the board. The board is tilted to keep it from pooling. Pieces are cut smaller than needed. One is nudged aside. Another is turned to keep its shape. The knife rests across the board and is picked up again to square an edge. The motion repeats, not for necessity, but because the hand expects it. The pot near the stove is uncovered. Steam slips out and fades. The tofu pieces are lifted one by one and lowered into the broth. One slips from the fingers and is caught against the pot's edge. It's steadied and lowered again. The lid is set on loosely, then shifted to leave a gap. Soybeans have already done their work by the time they reach the table. The hands don't grind or soak them here. They handle what's left of that effort. A ladle dips and lifts. It's lowered back to avoid breaking the tofu. The bowl is steadied with the other hand. The thumb rests on the rim and stays. The tofu is lifted carefully. It wobbles and is set back down. The chopsticks try again, and this time supporting from below. The piece holds. It's moved to the bowl and lowered gently so it won't split. The bowl is tipped slightly to meet it. The posture stays narrow. Shoulders angle inward. Elbows stay close to the wall. The back leans forward because the table is low. When the bowl is lifted, the body leans with it. When it's set down, the body doesn't move away. Tofu doesn't announce itself. It takes on the broth around it. A bite is lifted and held. It's eaten without chewing much. The bowl lowers. The chopsticks rest across the rim. They're picked up again to check the next piece. Between bites, the board is wiped with the back of the hand. Moisture smears and dries. The knife is turned so the blade faces away. The board is slid closer to the wall. Space is cleared without fully clearing. When the tofu is gone, as the corner looks nearly unchanged, the board stays damp. The knife rests where it was last set. Knees remain folded. Hands steady the bowl once more before setting it down and leaving it there. The corner keeps its shape. The table stays against the wall. Knees fold into the mat's crease again. A small jar is brought forward and set down, then turned so the label faces away. Fingers circle the lid. They stop. They circle again before twisting. The lid loosens with a dull sound and is placed upside down near the wall. The smell arrives before the spoon does. A spoon dips into the jar and lifts slowly. It pauses above the bowl. It lowers partway, then pulls back to take less. The spoon is scraped once against the rim. It's scraped again. Lighter this time. The bowl is steadied with the other hand. Fermented food isn't added quickly. The paste dissolves as it's stirred. The spoon moves in small circles. It stops. It moves again. Slower. The broth clouds slightly. The spoon rests across the bowl and is lifted once more to break a thicker spot. The pot near the stove stays off the flame. Heat isn't needed now. The bowl is lifted with both hands and held close. A sip is taken and held. It's swallowed slowly. The bowl lowers, then lifts again for a second sip. The second is smaller. Fingers tighten around the edge and stay there. Fermentation works quietly, but it's handled carefully. The jar is nudged farther from the heat. The lid is placed back on loosely, then turned just enough to keep it from sealing tight. The jar is slid toward the wall and left there. No one checks it again. Between sips, the body stays folded. Knees press into the mat. They don't shift much. The floor pulls at warmth through the mat, steady, and slow. The posture stays forward because straightening would cool the chest too quickly. The soup is returned to between bites of rice. The sequence doesn't change. Chopsticks lift. Pause. Lower. A sip follows. The bowl is set down closer this time. It's pulled back when it touches the edge of the mat. The position is corrected without looking. Fermented flavors linger longer than fresh ones. The mouth tightens briefly, then releases. The bowl follows immediately. The next bite of rice comes sooner than before. The pattern adjusts on its own. No one stops to name it. When the bowl thins, the spoon is used again to gather what settles at the bottom. It scrapes once, then twice. The sound changes. The spoon is set aside and not picked up again. The meal slows without ending. The jar stays by the wall. The lid rests slightly off, and knees remain folded. Hands steady the bowl one last time before setting it down. The corner holds everything in place. The corner stays small, but the hands move with more caution now. The same space holds a different weight, and the body responds to it. The table remains against the wall, but the posture changes before the food arrives. Knees fold onto the mat more carefully. The back straightens and stays that way longer. Hands rest on the thighs, palms down, then shift slightly inward. Nothing is touched yet. The bowl is set down and left untouched for a moment. Chopsticks are placed parallel, then adjusted so the tips align. One finger nudges them straighter. It nudges again, smaller this time. The movement stops only when the placement feels exact. Rice sits in the bowl, plain as before. The bowl is lifted just enough to check its weight, then set down again. Eating doesn't begin immediately. The hands wait. Shoulders stay level, and the body holds still even as the mat presses back through the knees. When eating begins, the motions are smaller. A bite is lifted and taken without pause. The bowl lowers, and stays down longer between bites. Chopsticks rest across the rim only briefly before being picked up again. The sequence repeats with little variation. The soup is lifted with both hands. It pauses near the mouth. A sip is taken and swallowed at once. The bowl lowers fully before the next sip. No warmth is held longer than needed. Fingers release as soon as the bowl touches the table. The space enforces restraint. Elbows remain close to the body. The wall keeps them from drifting outward. The low table prevents slouching. The posture is held because it has to be. Straightening or relaxing would break the shape the space requires. Each motion ends cleanly, and no bowl is adjusted twice. No grain is chased along the edge. If something slips, it's left where it falls. Attention stays on the act, not the correction. The body learns to accept what happens within the limits given. Between bites, the hands return to the thighs. Fingers spread once, then close. The knees remain folded without shifting. The mat creases deepen, but aren't smoothed out. The floor presses upward, steady and unyielding. The meal doesn't take long, but it isn't rushed. It ends when the bowl is light enough to lift easily. The bowl is set down and pushed forward a few inches. Chopsticks are aligned again and placed beside it. The hands withdraw and rest. The corner looks unchanged. The table leans the same way. The wall stays close. Only the posture remains held, even after the bowl is empty. The body stays still a moment longer before allowing itself to move. The corner doesn't change, but the order does. The mat is smoothed once before knees fold onto it. The smoothing happens again, lighter, as if to erase the first mark. Knees settle into place and stay there. The back straightens and holds. Hands rest on the thighs, fingers together, then separate slightly to release tension. The table is checked before anything is placed on it. A hand presses down near the shorter leg. The cloth underneath is adjusted, then adjusted again until the table stops rocking. Only then is the bowl brought forward. It set down gently, then shifted a finger's width to the left. Food arrives in sequence. Rice first, soup second, a small side dish last. Each item is placed and left alone. Chopsticks are laid out parallel, then realigned so the ends meet evenly. One finger taps them into position, and the finger lifts and does not return. Eating follows the same order. The bowl is lifted, held level, and lowered before the first bite. The chopsticks close once and lift a measured portion. There is no pause mid-air. The bite reaches the mouth cleanly. The bowl lowers fully before the next movement begins. The soup is taken with both hands. The bowl pauses at the same height each time. A sip is swallowed immediately. The bowl lowers and rests. Fingers release the rim as soon as it touches the table. No warmth is kept. No heat is borrowed longer than required. The side dish is eaten last. It's lifted and examined briefly, then eaten without adjustment. If a piece breaks, the remaining portion is left as it falls. There is no correction. Control lies in restraint, not in fixing what moves out of place. The posture holds the ritual together. Elbows stay close to the body. The wall prevents outward movement. The low table keeps the torso inclined just enough. The space enforces discipline without instruction. The body responds by remaining still longer than comfort would ask. Between courses, the hands return to the thighs. Fingers press lightly, then ease. Knees do not shift. The mat creases deepen under steady weight. The floor presses upward, reminding the body to stay contained. When the meal nears its end, the motions do not loosen. The bowl is lifted more easily now, but it's still handled the same way. Chopsticks rest across the rim briefly, then are picked up again to finish what remains. The sound at the bottom signals completion, not appetite. At the end, everything returns to alignment. Bowls are pushed forward together. Chopsticks are placed beside them, parallel once more. Hands withdraw and rest. The posture remains held a moment longer before the body allows itself to relax. The corner stays unchanged. The bowls are moved aside. Hands linger near the table, then withdraw. The corner is left behind, but the body carries its habits with it. The space is narrower now. A small stall opens into the street, barely deep enough to stand inside. The counter runs along one wall. A foot steps in, then back out, then in again to make room. The floor is packed dirt, worn smooth where others have stood before. Weight shifts from heel to toe and stays there. A bowl is passed across the counter. It's caught with both hands and pulled close. Steam rises fast in the cooler air. Fingers tighten around the rim, then loosen to avoid the heat. The bowl is set down on the counter and slid an inch closer to the body. It stops when it meets a groove worn into the wood. Noodles sit in the broth, already soft. Chopsticks separate a small bundle and lift it. The bundle stretches, then breaks. It's lowered back into the bowl. The chopsticks lift again, higher this time, and pause to let the broth drip back. A drop falls onto the counter and spreads. It's ignored. Eating happens standing. The back stays straight because there's nowhere to lean. The elbows angle inward to avoid brushing another shoulder nearby. A foot slides back to steady the stance. The bowl is lifted closer to the mouth than before. Slurping pulls the noodles in quickly, then stops. Breathing adjusts before the next lift. The broth is taken in short sips. The bowl tilts, then tilts back. It's set down between sips because the heat builds fast. Fingers flex and release around the rim. The warmth moves in and out of the hands without staying long. People pass close behind. The body shifts to make space without turning, and a shoulder brushes cloth and moves away. The bowl is pulled closer to the chest. Chopsticks pause mid-air, then continue. The motion tightens and shortens to fit the space. Noodles disappear quickly, but not all at once. A few strands cling to the bowl's edge and are gathered with the chopsticks. The last bundle is lifted and eaten without pause. The bowl is tilted to check what remains. The broth settles and shows its bottom. The bowl is set back on the counter and pushed forward. Fingers linger on the rim a moment longer, then pull away. A foot steps back to clear the space. Weight shifts again, ready to move on. The stall fills with the next body. The stall stays narrow. The counter runs along the wall, worn smooth where hands have rested before. A foot steps in and stops short. Another body stands close behind. Weight shifts forward to make room. The ground is uneven. One heel lifts, then lowers again to find balance. A bowl is set down with a soft knock. It slides a little and is pulled back. Fingers curl around the rim, then release to avoid the heat. Steam rises and thins quickly in the open air. The bowl is lifted, then set down again because someone brushes past. Eating here stays brief. Chopsticks lift noodles and pause midair. They lower again when the strands tangle. The chopsticks separate them with a small shake. The lift happens again, higher this time, to clear the bowl's edge. Broth drips back onto the counter and darkens the wood. Standing changes the body, and the back stays straight. Knees don't fold. A foot slides back to steady the stance. The bowl is held closer to the face than it would be at home. Slurping pulls noodles in quickly, then stops. Breath is taken through the nose before the next lift. The space keeps movement tight. Elbows stay in. Shoulders angle away from the street. When someone reaches across the counter, the bowl is drawn inward. Chopsticks pause. They continue once the arm passes. Eating adjusts without comment. Broth is taken in short sips. The bowl tilts, then returns upright. It's set down between sips because the heat builds fast. Fingers flex against the rim and pull back. The warmth comes and goes without settling. Conversation is minimal. A nod replaces words. Coins are placed on the counter and nudged forward. The sound is light. It doesn't interrupt eating. The bowl is checked once more and tilted to gather what remains. A few drops cling and slide back. The last mouthful is taken without pause. The bowl is set down and pushed toward the far edge. Fingers linger, then withdraw. A step backward clears the space. Another body moves in. The counter takes the next set of hands. The street is left behind. Footsteps fade. A quieter room takes their place, and the body slows before the door is fully closed. The room is smaller than the kitchen, but calmer. A low table sits near the window. The floor is covered with mats, pressed flat by years of use. Knees fold down carefully. One knee shifts, then settles into a familiar dip. The back straightens and stays there without effort. A kettle rests near the heat. It's lifted and set down once before pouring. The spout hovers over the cup. Water flows, then stops. It flows again to reach the right level. Steam rises briefly and fades. The kettle is returned to its place, angled so the handle cools faster. Tea leaves are already waiting. A pinch is taken and dropped into the cup. Another pinch follows, smaller. Fingers brush together to remove what clings, and the cup is nudged closer to the body. The surface darkens as the leaves open and sink. The cup is lifted with both hands. It pauses near the chest. The warmth moves into the palms and stays. A sip is taken and held before swallowing. The cup lowers halfway, then rises again for a second sip. The second is shorter. The cup rests on the table between them. Tea doesn't ask for haste. The posture softens, but doesn't collapse. Shoulders lower slightly. Elbows rest closer to the body. The floor presses up through the knees, steady and even. Nothing pulls the body forward here. Nothing pushes it back. between sips, the cup is turned a little to keep the leaves from gathering on one side. The turn happens again when the cup is set down. A ring of moisture forms and is wiped with the edge of the sleeve, and the mark fades, but doesn't disappear fully. The tea cools gradually. Sips come farther apart. The cup is lifted more for its warmth than its taste now. Fingers loosen their grip, then tighten again when the cup cools too much. The rhythm adjusts without thought. The room stays quiet. No bowls are moved. No tools are needed. The cup empties slowly. It's tipped once to check, then set back down without draining the last drops. Knees remain folded. Hands rest lightly on the table. When the tea is finished, the cup stays where it is. Steam is gone. Warmth lingers in the hands. The posture holds a moment longer before changing. The room keeps its stillness. The table stays low. The cup remains near the window. Knees are still folded on the mat. One knee shifts slightly to ease the pressure, then settles back into the same place. Hands rest on the edge of the table before moving again. A small dish is brought out and set down carefully. It's nudged closer, then turned so its edge lines up with the cup. A single sweet rests on it. Fingers hover, then pull back. The sweet stays untouched for a moment longer than expected. When it's taken, it's lifted slowly. The fingers press lightly to keep it from breaking. The sweet is turned once, then again, to find the right side. It's brought closer to the mouth and stopped. It's lowered back to the dish before being lifted again. The first bite is small. The sweet yields and holds its shape. The bite is chewed longer than usual. The cup is lifted immediately after. A sip follows to clear the mouth The cup lowers and rests while the sweetness settles. These sweets are not meant to fill. The remaining piece sits on the dish and waits. Fingers touch the edge of the dish and pull away. The hand returns to the cup instead. Another sip is taken, shorter this time. Between bites, posture remains unchanged. The back stays upright. Shoulders stay loose. The floor presses evenly through the knees. The room does not invite movement. It holds the body where it is. The second bite is smaller than the first. It's taken and chewed without hurry. The dish is checked afterward, not because more is needed, but because the habit remains. The last piece is left where it is. Tea cools further now. The cup is lifted more for warmth than taste. Fingers loosen around it and then tighten again. The cup is set down and not lifted immediately. Hands rest on the table, palms down. Nothing here encourages more. The sweet remains on the dish. The cup remains half empty. Knees stay folded. The body doesn't lean forward or back. It stays where it settled at the beginning. When the moment ends, it does so quietly. The dish is moved aside, not cleared away. The cup stays. Hands withdraw and rest on the thighs. The posture holds a little longer before shifting. The room keeps its calm. The cup is left where it is. The room stays quiet. What remains now is not another dish, but the way the body lingers after eating. The room holds its shape. The low table stays near the window. Knees remain folded on the mat. One knee shifts slightly, then presses back into the same place. Hands rest on the thighs before moving again. The cup sits where it was last set down, its surface dull now that the steam is gone. Nothing is prepared next. The kettle cools on its own. The lid isn't lifted again. Fingers reach toward the cup and stop short. They rest on the table instead. The table doesn't move. The floor presses upward through the mat, steady and familiar. Meals like this do not demand attention once they are finished. The body stays where it is because there is no reason to stand yet. The back straightens once, then eases. As shoulders lower slightly, breath slows without being counted. The room accepts this without change. Food has already done its work, not by filling, but by holding the body in place long enough to settle. The warmth from the cup has moved into the hands and faded. The sweetness from earlier lingers faintly, then thins. The mouth closes and stays closed. Across the day, this pattern repeats in different corners. A bowl set down, a posture taken, a moment held longer than needed. Eating fits between tasks rather than interrupting them. It arrives, occupies the body briefly, then leaves it steady enough to continue. The space teaches this without instruction. Low tables keep the body forward. Floors keep the legs folded. Heat pulls the chest inward. Narrow rooms limit movement. The body responds by moving less, not more. Meals adjust to this shape instead of resisting it. Nothing here invites excess. Portions remain modest. Motions remain small. Repetition does the work that choice might otherwise complicate. The hands learn what comes next before the mind names it. The body trusts this sequence because it has held before. As the day moves on, the room will change occupants. The table will be used again. The mat will take weight in the same places. Bowls will return to familiar position. Each meal will look much like the laugh, close enough to feel known. For those who lived this way, food was not something to finish and move past quickly. It was a pause that fit into the body's limits, a way to stay upright without rushing, a way to sit still long enough to notice when it was time to stand. The cup remains on the table. Hands rest nearby. Knees stay folded. The room holds its quiet. Nothing else is required.